Are you ready?
Hey guys, it's Crazy John DX, and I felt like doing a top 10 video, and it is raining outside right now, and thundering. Is this really the best time to do it? No, I'm sure it's fine. Anyway, a while ago, about over a year ago, I had done I believe it was my first ever top 10 list. Top 10 listings of things wrong with Gen 1. And I thought, hey, why not make a follow-up list? It's only been over a year. Okay. Now, though the thing is, the Gen 2 games don't have any actual sort of, you know, glitches similar to that of Gen 1 that affected the gameplay. So I'm going to try to really quickly go over a few things at least that were wrong with Gen 1, not involving the actual gameplay. Ready?
Catching Chansey was a load of bull, especially if you didn't know that you could catch it in Cerulean Cave. You were more than likely to miss the Pokemon with Safari Balls, and just as likely to cause it to run away no matter what, making the need for TM41 Soft Boil in Celadon City utterly pointless to have, except to sell it in a Pokemart. Team Rocket was actually portrayed as much worse human beings, which was apparently toned down in the remakes, including dialogue involving Cubone mother being killed by Team Rocket. It was changed to simply to have this girl ask you to say hi to her Cubone. Panties. Your rival was a giant twat that people had to make up a bogus theory in order to try to put him in good light. The theory was that you killed Eradicate, which is why he doesn't have one on his team in his Pokemon Tower. Yet the only reason he was there was to catch Pokemon, as people seem to completely ignore that everyone uses Bill's Baby C to sort the Pokemon they can't bring. Gary believed Eradicate wasn't strong enough to compete with anyone, so he swapped him out for their respective element Pokemon, Grass, Fire, and Water, for his team. Keep in mind, he outright states that he caught over 40 different Pokemon on SSN, so Eradicate died and so did his 33 of his other Pokemon by this crap logic. The Pokemon Gems in Yellow were obviously outrageously unbalanced, if you think about it, as his state starts to look easy with Brock's Pokemon being 2 levels lower through the Red and Blue Campars and Misty being unchanged. Then Lieutenant Surge is level 28 Raichu, which resulted in Rusted Gems being overpowered rather ridiculously as well. This was one of the negatives about the anime similarities in Yellow, as we had to put in more effort to train our Pokemon, or at least I did. Charizard couldn't learn Flying Red and Blue, and while they fixed this in Yellow, that was just bullshit. And hopefully last, unless you guys point out more to me than are in this same kind of light in the comments below, but certainly not least, well maybe it is. Gen 1ers. Just Gen 1ers. Fuck!
Ooh, that was, yeah, something, right? See, why is my hair curling at the end? Okay. Alright. Now, with that out of the way, this is my top 10 list of things wrong with Gen 2. Keep in mind, these are my opinion, not yours. So don't actually mess with me about if it's my opinion or whatever. It's just... I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that.
Number 10. Shinies were a fun little thing that were supposed to be something you'd encounter at random and, feel good about it as it would happen that chance. It was basically a Pokemon of a different color compared to normal and nothing else. No stat buffs, no special moveset, nothing of real importance. Leave it to a lot of Pokemon fans to turn it into a competition, orphaning hundreds, and I mean hundreds, if not thousands and millions, of hatched Pokemon just for one of a different color. Imagine if this was involving actual animals. The ecosystem would be out of whack, and PETA would be all over this shit like they tried to be already. But for actually viable reasons. Shinies were supposed to be a fun little thing that you'd happen to get, but people actually choose to waste their days straight just for a shiny Pokemon, along with constantly resetting in an attempt for that a shiny legendary. Oh, you got a shiny Rayquaza that was caught in game and not event or anything? I bet you missed your father's birthday for that. In addition to this, people refuse to acknowledge that Red Gyarados is their first shiny Pokemon. Yes, I do get that there are exceptions, such as managing to find a shiny Pokemon beforehand, not ever playing the Gen 2 games, or just plain not catching it, but if you played the original Gen 2 games, which were your first games that included shinies in it, never encountered a shiny beforehand, and actually caught Red Gyarados, then congratulations, it's your first shiny. Even then, it isn't a fucking competition as to what your first shiny was and what IVs or whatever were included. It's just a different color palette. Why treat it any better than your other Pokemon? Number 9. The special stat was kinda sorta split in Gen 2 into special attack and special defense. I say kind of because while I can't find any footage of it, when I traded a Pokemon from Yellow to Silver once, I checked the stats and turned out the special stat became the special attack, and the special defense stat just randomly showed up as if out of nowhere. While this made some Pokemon great in battle, it also downgraded some Pokemon. One example is Cloyster. Cloyster was a fucking beast in Gen 1. Then in Gen 2, its special defense stat was very low. Its base special defense is 45. 45! It sucks that such a great Gen 1 Pokemon became bleh. Number 8. The bug catching contest was an interesting take on Safari Zone, which I'll get into in a bit, but also played up to the in-game time for you to do it 3 times a week. I say in-game time, but I really meant real-life time. It had a number of bug Pokemon, with some being found only in there during the bug catching contest. At National Park, of course. The rarest being Butterfree, Beedrill, Scyther, and Pinsir, making them worth the most points. Leave it to the game developers to troll you by seeing that a fucking Caterpie won the competition! If you encounter this sort of crap, you know the other disdain for this moment. Just go and fuck yourself, Bugcatcher, what's his name? Number 7. This is a minor one, to be honest, at least from what I've seen with most people, but bear with me. These days, you can usually buy a special kind of Pokeball at a specific Pokemart, whatever it may be. Although in Gen 2, you had to get apricorns to give to a man named Kurt in Azalea Town to make these Pokeballs after a set amount of time. You'd think it was just like when you had to revive a fossil in the Gen 1 games, just leave and come back, right? Nope, it takes a day. Like an actual full 24 hours in real time, and no way to speed it up. And only one ball at a time. Singular. Not one type, just one single ball. It is fucking bullshit. Although, to be fair, they did fix the one ball thing in Crystal by allowing you to give up to 99 of the same type of apricorn to make that kind of Pokeball. But the problem was, like berry trees, you could only get one type of apricorn per day, so it made little difference in that aspect. It's weird, really. Number 6. You know how pissed you got when Latios ran away in Pokemon Ruby every time you encountered it? Yeah, blame Gen 2 for that. It was an interesting concept in that you had to actively find a legendary in order to catch it. Except it was near impossible to actually get a second attack in, as every time you fought whatever roamer it was, it'd run away almost instantly. Once you find it, though, it wouldn't be as hard, as Pokedex helps. But don't think you can just fly to the area it is in and expect it to be there, because then it is going to be in a completely different area, usually on the opposite side of the map. Your best bet was to use the best repels you had while stepping in and out of a certain route at a certain cross point it is close by, and be patient. Unfortunately, kids don't have a good grasp on patience, or at least I didn't, and would not want to waste time trying to find one. Oh, how the times have changed. Number 5. Sorry, I misspoke. This little shit bit was exclusive to Pokemon Crystal. Now, bear with me. I'm sure this is positive for a lot of you, but let me just say this. When you make it to the daycare, you were given an egg that would be one of 8 Pokemon. They were Togepi, yes, another Togepi. Imagine the hatred one would have felt here. Cleffa, Igglybuff, Magby, Tyrogue, which you can only get in Mount Mortar, Elekid, Smoochum, and the one almost, if not virtually everyone wanted, Pichu. The downside is that it is completely random. And if you were a kid, you more than likely wanted a Pikachu, because the marketing managed to make Pikachu so popular that it's just like, hey, it's a mascot, not a Clefairy. Unfortunately, the only place they can be found in Gold Silver Crystal is in Route 4, in Kanto, post-game. This was the only other way to get a Pikachu, and it was a bitch because you probably find yourself saving before the daycare visit and resetting beforehand if you were really dedicated. If you were lucky, good on you. As for the rest of us, we're stuck with something we didn't want or already have because we didn't want to waste time on it. Number 4. Remember when I did in my little quick bit about how Team Rocket was like rather dark in a sense? Well, while they're not exactly the same here, they were a major shell of its former self, essentially. Like, I can't understand the no whip parts, but they only had like 4 actual crimes in the full game. Not counting the remakes, of course. First, they were starting out small, cutting Slowpoke tail. Then, much later, they'd forced Pokemon to evolve with a weird signal in Mahogany Town. After you win your 7th badge, whether it be Olivine or Mahogany, because some people likely went to Olivine for the 7th badge due to the level layout, they take control of the Goldenrod Radio Tower in an attempt to get in contact with the former leader. Remember that we're ignoring the remakes for now. When you beat them, they break up the team once again, with the 4th time, however, just being a rogue rocket grunt stealing a power plant battery thing that caused Magnet Train to fail to operate at all, among other things, as well as Radio Tower in Kanto, I believe. Apparently this guy never got the memo. Number 3. Imagine if you accidentally set the wrong time or just forgot to set daylight savings time for the clock. In other words, like, say it was daylight savings time, and you said no, it's not daylight savings time in the game, and then the clock moves like whatever way it goes, I forget, spring forward, fall back, I don't know, and your mother was unable to change the clock properly. Basically, from what I recall looking up, what you had to do was reset the time and fix it was to enter a very specific password. This was how it worked, unfortunately. It all depended on not just the name you used, not just your ID number, but also the amount of money you had at that very time of the save file. Meaning, it was never a set password to begin with. For those who didn't have internet access at this time, such as myself, you were fucked. I remember seeing Cerebi.net actually have a special page for this, but I haven't had luck in finding it. But I did find one elsewhere, which I will display a link to you now in case you guys ever actually need it. But these days, with emulators and whatnot, you probably don't need it all that much. But, just to be safe. Number 2, Whitney's Mill Tank. It was the biggest bitch. Sorry, I meant bitch. I don't know why I said bitch. It's like the game developers wanted to see us cry, and they likely did. Milk Drink healed it. Attract to cripple your best male Pokemon, and if you were probably me, you ended up more than likely having a goddamn fucking male all team for whatever reason, because luck would have it that you never got a female. Stomp, which was always that powerful with a chance of flinching, and Rollout to get stronger each turn with every successful hit, and they were almost always successful. Fuck this cow, I'd rather turn it into beef tacos! Okay, I've calmed down a bit. Number 1. The Safari Zone was one of the best things about the Gen 1 games, in my opinion, and a lot of people couldn't agree with me on that one. So, what do they do with it in Gen 2 where you could actually revisit Kanto? They have it closed down. Forever. Yeah, we had National Park's aforementioned bug catching contest, but it failed to be as good as the Safari Zone. A lot of kids anticipated Safari Zone's return, when they heard we could return to Kanto. So to just have it closed down because Warren apparently wanted a permanent vacation was really much bullshit. This was by far the one thing that I'm sure everyone could agree to hate in Gen 2, and is, in my opinion, the number one thing wrong with the Gen 2 games.
And there you have it, my top 10 list of things wrong with Gen 2. Now, in all honesty, I'm sure that there's probably more things that you guys would probably suggest were bad about Gen 2, or maybe you'll let nostalgia get in the way and pretty much say, no, Gen 2 is best, it's perfect and everything. It had unknown. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I don't have a proper outro to this, actually. I guess I'll just go back to finding a game to review. I wonder what I shall review. Take care, guys.